What is going on, everybody? GiraffeAnatomy here, and today I'm coming at you with another Smite Quick God Guide. Today, the god that we will be looking at is Baron Samedi, the god of life and death. The goal of this video is basically to give you a high-level overview of Baron's abilities. We'll go over his kit, how his abilities work, give you some tips and tricks, and hopefully by the end of this video you're able to take him, if you've never played him before, into an arena, joust, slash, or conquest game and be able to use him effectively, right? So without any further ado, what I will do is get into some jungle practice here and we will learn about Baron Samedi. In case you guys didn't know, Baron Samedi is considered a mage in Smite. That is his class. That means he is a ranged magical damage dealer. So his basic attacks are ranged, and obviously his abilities, they have some range to them as well. Baron is actually pretty unique because of his kit. He can be played in multiple roles. So not only do you see him in the mid lane, you may call me Baron. So not only do you see him in mid lane as a traditional mage, but he can flex into solo incredibly well, and he can flex as a support sometimes as well too. Baron, the way he does some healing with his kit, the way he's able to slow, do damage, like his hysteria meter that we'll get into today, basically enables him to flex into those three roles. You'll see him in mid as a mage a lot. You'll see him in solo a lot as well, and then you'll occasionally see him in support too. His ultimate is a great team support ult. You know, between his healing and his slows and his stuns and things like that, he does a really great job as a support too, so you can kind of build him as a hybrid, full damage or completely tanky, and he will be able to still be effective in the game. So without further ado, let me do this. I'm going to level everything up to 20 first. And then we're going to go over Baron's passive. Let's talk about Baron's passive. Baron's passive is called Vivid Gaze. Baron Samedi animates two skulls. Whoop, sorry. Hysteria. My bad. Hysteria is Baron's passive. Baron shares Baron's Brew, a powerful restorative chalice with his allies from the item shop. Enemies hit by Baron will have Hysteria applied to them. Baron's abilities interact with Hysteria to provide bonus effects. Targets at max Hysteria take 20% additional damage from Baron Samedi. So what is Hysteria? How can you tell if a god's Hysteria, right? Let's go over all of this real quick. Also, you do get a new item in the shop if a Baron is on your team. So whether that's you as the Baron or someone else on your team, if you see a Baron, Baron's Brew will be available for you in the shop. This is basically a consumable like healing or mana potions are. It's actually a mix of the two, so it sort of acts more as like a multi-pot than anything else. But it's pretty good. If you have enough money, it is normally considered good to pick it up, especially early game, because every time you back, basically saves you money because it will automatically stack. So if we actually grab this really quickly here, you'll see it has 3 stacks, and if I use it, right, and it goes down to 2, but I back, actually I'll just use it all, right? So once you use all 3 of these, once you back to the fountain, it will automatically refill with 3. So it's going to save you a lot of gold in the long run. It helps you early game with sustain. You could buy this and maybe like a health potion or 2 at the beginning of the game, and you should be good to go. So let's talk about Hysteria in general though. So Hysteria, enemies hit by Baron will have Hysteria applied to them. Baron's abilities interact with Hysteria to provide bonus effects, right? So what does Hysteria look like? When you are attacking an enemy god, you will see this other little meter show up on the right side of their health bar, right? You see Odin here. When you hit them with a basic attack or even an ability, right, you will see this meter fill up, and once it fills up to a certain amount, you will see this skull above their head. That means that the enemy is under Hysteria at that point, right? So there's basically a meter. I know it's really hard to see sometimes when you're back here, but if you hit them enough, they will eventually build up Hysteria. And you could tell just from range, right, if they have it or not, because they have this skull over their head. So if you build it all the way up, they end up having max hysteria, right? Eventually you'll get to the point where that meter is completely filled and it can't fill anymore. This is the max hysteria that they were talking about, right? Targets at max hysteria take 20% additional damage from Baron. So you can see how I went from hitting 46 of basic to 55 when that meter was fully stacked, right? So you want to pay attention to that meter. You want to pay attention to it and see if any enemies have max hysteria, because they're going to be taking 20% more damage from you if they have this completely full, right? So you'll see again, now it's gone down a little bit, right? I hit him again, 46, 46. Now it's at max. It's going to hit that 55. You're good to go. So let's talk about his first ability called Vivid Gaze, and we'll talk about how each of these interplays with Hysteria, because each of his abilities do kind of play into this Hysteria meter that they have. So Vivid Gaze. Baron Samedi animates 2 skulls, both which briefly warm up before firing 2 beams of voodoo magic that damage enemies. The beams cross over wherever Baron Samedi was aiming. Enemies hit by both beams take 15% damage on the second hit. If the enemy god hit is above 30 Hysteria, their physical power, magical power, and attack speed are reduced for, and then it has the seconds there. When you have it fully maxed, it's 5 seconds. When you don't, it's 3 seconds, right? And then it gives you the damage for it. It starts at 90, goes to 250 when fully maxed. It shows you the power reduction, which is 30, the attack speed reduction, which is 30, and the Hysteria per hit, right? So if you hit them with this, right? If you hit an enemy god with this, they're going to automatically stack 15 Hysteria, right? So that's the Hysteria you'll get from this. It's more than like a basic attack. And you do it again. They should be at 30 Hysteria, right? And then you, once they get to 30 Hysteria, you basically are able to get these extra the power reduction and the attack speed reduction, right? So if an enemy hit is above 30 Hysteria, their physical power, magical power, and attack speed are reduced for that amount of seconds, right? So this gives you an advantage when you're fighting enemies. Just know if you hit them with this and they're over that Hysteria meter, you're going to do that extra power and attack speed reduction to them. And just to show you what the ability looks like, it is this line ability. What you can do is obviously in the middle here where they intersect, that's where you will do the most damage, right? They said that already. If you hit them with a 1, so you can actually hit like 2 targets with them because they cross over. And if I do this, right, the right one takes damage and the left one takes damage. But if I put them together, it will take that extra 15% damage on the second hit, which is basically like the second laser, right? So if I put him in the middle here, he's taking that extra damage on there, right? So you do want to try and get a god to, if you're just single 1v1 targeting, get them in the middle of that ability. It will do that extra damage to them. You can like hit 2 enemies this way if you really want to. It's really hard to aim this just because it feels a little like weird the way it goes and like the way it hits. But you can at max range really use this effectively because both lasers are hitting together, right? So it's a good poke tool. It's good for if people are running away and everything like that as well. And then if you can get some Hysteria on them beforehand, right? So that they have the skull, you're going to be doing that attack speed and power reduction to them when you're hitting them, right? So let's talk about Baron Samedi's second ability. Baron Samedi's second ability is called Consigned Spirits. Baron Samedi guides restless spirits to the ground and buries them. After a brief delay, the ground erupts, damaging enemies standing in the area. If an enemy god is hit, friendly spirits fly from the area and heal allies near the explosion or by Baron Samedi. If the enemy god hit is above 30 Hysteria, the friendly spirit cleanses ally slow effects and increases their movement speed, right? In case you guys didn't know, during this meter here, right, that first little line there where they start to get the stall, where they get this skull, they're under 30, or they're at 30 Hysteria at that point, right? So if you ever see a skull, that's when these extra effects are going to come into play here, right? So when it says if the enemy hit is above 30 hysteria, right, on this one, the other one, if the enemy hit is above 30 hysteria, that's what it's talking about. When it has the skull above their head, you will see that extra effect apply to them, right? So let's take a look at what this ability looks like. It's basically a simple circle, and when you use it, that's what it does. And you get a little healing kind of spirit that comes back, and it will heal your teammates around you as well when you do that. So it's a great healing tool. It basically heals, it does a flat heal, right? And then it cleanses ally slow effects if you're above that hysteria, and increases their movement speed, right? So really quick, I'm going to get somebody under hysteria first so you can take a look at it and see what it does when you're over 30 hysteria, right? So if we have the 30 hysteria and we do this, when that spirit hits me, you see this down here, lively spirit, your movement speed is increased. That's because they were over 30 hysteria. So you're getting the slow effect being cleansed, and you're increasing your movement speed and allies around you for a short duration. It's like 2 seconds, right? So yeah, and it also applies 20 hysteria per hit. So you're going to stack hysteria pretty fast, just with like a 2-1 combo, right? You're going to stack hysteria on an enemy just by hitting that, or hitting your basics, right? But you can stack it pretty fast just by hitting them with 1 or 2 of your abilities, right? Both of these abilities do damage. This one does heal you and your allies, so remember, you can build healing items and have it like affect this a little bit more. This is why Baron can sometimes be a pretty good support or a solo, because he can also heal his friendlies in team fights, things like that as well, right? So let's go over his third ability now. It's called Wrap It Up. Baron Samedi throws his snake forward, wrapping an enemy god hit and dealing damage every 0.5 seconds for 2.5 seconds, and applying a ramp to root. So ramp to root is basically like it's slowing them, and then they can't move for like a quick second. You'll see, I'll do it on this Odin here, you'll see him slowly slow down and then get rooted, and then it'll be over, right? If a god hit is above 30 hysteria, the snake will also lash out at nearby enemy gods who stand too close after 1 second. Enemies hit by this are injected with venom that applies a ramp to root and deals the full damage over time immediately, right? So this is a really great tool if you're team fighting and you have an enemy that has hit hysteria already. You're going to want to try and hit the one with the skull above their head with this, because that will also apply to any enemies that are within like the vicinity as well. So I'll show you real quick what this looks like. See how he kind of slowed down and then he couldn't move anymore for a second and then he was able to walk again? That's what the ramp to slow is for this, right? So without anything, it's just going to do that little damage, right? The 0.5 seconds for 2.5 seconds and ramp to that root. But if he's over 30 hysteria, right? If I hit him with this, if I hit him with that. Okay, now that he's under hysteria, let's hit him with it again. All right. So you see that area around him? That's where others will be affected if they are within that circle. So if you have enemies within that circle as you hit him, they will also be dealt this. If a god is hit above 30 hysteria, the snake will lash out to any nearby enemy gods who stand too close, and they will get injected with venom, right? So really, you want to be using this. As you can see, there isn't a circle on anybody when they're not over that hysteria meter. But if you get them over that hysteria meter and they have the skull over their head, I'll show you again real quick. When you hit them with this 3, you're going to see that circle, and then any allied gods within that circle end up also taking that extra damage, the slow duration, the root duration, right? And this provides 5 hysteria per hit. So this one provides 15, 20, 5. So if you hit them with like a 20 and a 15, they're going to be over that. Actually, I think it's what, 20, 15, 3. Yeah. So just hitting them with like a 20 and a 15, they'll be over that 30. The 20 and the 5 won't do it, right? So hitting them with your 1 and your 2, they'll be over the hysteria meter. You'll be able to then hit them with like their 3 and do that extra root and slow and everything like that. So When it comes to Baron's abilities, using these three together, this is a good long range poke to use because at the long range you're getting the double hit, and it's like, I think, easier to try and hit that double hit when it's farther away from you than when it's like closer, right? So it's easier to like kind of do this and use it as like a big long line ability than to try and hit somebody like in here, right? You really have to time it right and make sure you do it correctly so it hits properly. This is also a good poke tool. You can hit multiple enemies with it, so if they're grouped up, or the wave, right, you're going to use this. It's going to heal you a little bit. It's going to give you those movements if they're over the hysteria, right? So you can use those together, but really what you're trying to do is poke somebody out until they get this, and then you're trying to hit them with the 3, and then try and get their teammates in there as well, because it will also apply that root and everything to them. And then when you do something like that, and when they're above hysteria, you can then start poking them with the 3 first, right? If you already see a skull, I think it's a good idea to start with the 3, right? Because then you can apply that root, and once you have the root, you basically have a free casting time to hit your 2 and your 1 on them, right? So really what you're trying to do is, if you're jockeying in mid lane, you're just messing around with somebody and you're poking them, right, until they get the skull over their head. Once they do, now you're going to want to engage with your 3 first, right? So beforehand, it's not really good to engage with your 3 unless they have a skull over their head. When they do have a skull over their head, that's when you want to start with your 3. You can hit this and this at the same time. They'll be stunned. You'll be able to hit them, so they won't be able to move as fast. They're going to ramp to that slow, so you can hit both abilities easier. And it gives you pretty good burst damage on that. So let me show you on the Odin here, right? If I'm hitting him and I'm jockeying with him, right, I'm just going to hit him with some abilities. Okay, now that he's the skull, I'm going to wait for like my 1 to come up, right? We're jockeying lane. Maybe we clear lane a little bit, but I know he has that skull and I'm applying this to him, right? If I can get it to max, that's even better. Now I'm going to hit them with this 3. I know he's going to stay there, and because he's rooted, it makes it way easier to hit my 1 and then my 2 on top of that, right? So you can do 1 2 2 1. I think it's easier to do the 1 first preemptively because you kind of know where he's going to stop with the root, and then you do the 2 over that as well. But you can do it the other way if you want. So you can start with your 3, you can do the 2 and then the 1, right? It makes it easier to hit that 1 because he is completely stopped at that one point, and the 2 is more of like a circle. So you have a little bit more of like a, I guess, a leeway when it comes to error, right? So you would hit him with your 3, hit that 2, then hit the 1. There you go. It's a ton of burst damage done to the enemy. That's how you play Baron. That's how you use his kit. Use his 1 and 2 for poke at the beginning. Use his 2 for heals whenever you can, right? Whenever you need healing and stuff. Use it in the wave. Use it on enemies. Use it on the minions and stuff. They will heal you. And then you basically, once they have the skulls over their head, you're going to start the engagement with your 3. Because it will enable you to set up all his other abilities first as well. Also, when it comes to wave clear and things like that, right? I know some people that start with his 2, some people that start with his 3. I just like starting with the 2 early because it's like very easy, right? You're able to just clear the waves. So you'd start with his 2 or his 1, then get the other one, and then you go into his 3, right? Because his 3 is basically like his engagement tool. So let's talk about Baron Samedi's ultimate. It's called Life of the Party. Baron Samedi pulls the souls of the living towards his coffin, becoming immune to crowd control and taking 35% reduced damage. Enemy gods within range are caught in a vortex, dragging them towards the coffin and taking damage every 33 seconds. When an enemy god reaches the coffin, their soul is ripped out, causing them to be stunned, take a large amount of damage based on their maximum health, and gain max hysteria. This ability persists for 3.5 seconds or until an enemy god is pulled into the coffin, right? If targets being pulled are above 30 hysteria, the pull strength is increased. I'm going to show you what that looks like here. There's a lot to unpack here. First, I will show you what it looks like when you're about to use it. This is the cone of effect. If you can get them in here, they're going to start being sucked to it, right? So I'll just show you what it looks like first, and then we'll get into the nuances of it and how to use it with your kit and all that other stuff. So during this whole time, he becomes CC immune, right? Gods are pulled to you if they are within that cone. It's really hard for them to get out if they don't have beads. And maybe if they have like a leap ability, they could leap like right or left. And then once you get them to you, they will be stunned for 1.5 seconds, right? And then those ticks that you hear is going to be stacking the hysteria on them, right? And then basically with this, they're taking damage every 0.33 seconds, right? And then when a god reaches the coffin, so whoever actually reaches a coffin first is the one that gets stunned. You saw the two. I'm going to show you again real quick. You saw the two getting pulled. Only one of them will get stunned. Like, only one god ends up getting stunned by this ability. And whichever one that is gets stunned for the 1.5 seconds. So I'll show you again. They're taking damage this whole time, right? And then you'll see that one got there first, so he gets stunned. The other one runs off right away, but this one runs. So also another tip, if you're playing against the Baron Samedi and you're a tank, sometimes it's good to eat that and like run straight to him so your enemy team stops getting damaged by it, right? That can really save your teammates, and because you're the tank, you can normally take that damage, and you'll be okay, like versus a squishy on your team that will die instantly. One other thing you can do with this is in a nuanced thing is you can actually use it to keep people kind of in a zone or an area for a while. So if you are coming in to a team fight and your jungle's like jumping on them already, you can use this to sort of keep somebody here by like kind of flicking it back and forth, right? Because it gets stronger and stronger as it goes on to like suck them into the coffin. You don't have to suck them all the way into the coffin. You can kind of use it to keep a person within a zone so they can't get out. So you can kind of flick back and forth and keep them on the edge there, so that they can't fully get away, and then have the rest of your teammates do damage. So that's more of like a support oriented way to use this, or maybe like a solo or something like that. If you're full damage, it's a good idea to probably like suck somebody in, especially if they're squishy, because then you can do damage to them as well. But if you're not, you can kind of like I said, flick it back and forth. See how Owen's kind of in one spot because of that. So yeah. Also, the other thing to note is when they get sucked into the coffin, right? The enemy god that's pulled into the coffin gets max hysteria, right? So they take a large amount of damage based on their health and gain max hysteria, right? So whoever ends up getting that stun is automatically primed to just get blown up by Baron. So this is one of those alts where sometimes it's a good team fight initiation, right? Because you're basically going to start with this and you're going to get them to max hysteria, and that will give the rest of your abilities maximum damage on it, right? So sometimes you're building it up and kind of attacking some people, and then you want to use your ult. With most gods, with Baron, you can actually go straight to ult, hit him, right? Give them that max hysteria, and just unload your kit on them, and you will do damage to them, right? Because you start with the ult and they don't start at hysteria. If they do get into it and get the coffin, you're able to then do your 3, hit your 2 and your 1. You're going to do a ton of extra damage, right? Remember his passive, 20% additional damage from Baron Samedi. So they're going to be taking 20% damage after everything after that, right? If you can build it up, obviously they're going to be doing a ton of damage before. Like if you get them to max hysteria before you use your ult, that's also really good. But sometimes like it doesn't work that way, right? And you kind of need to like burst somebody down real fast. But I'll just show you real quick what it looks like when you get them to max hysteria first. You can then do this, right? You're doing a ton of damage to him. Suck him up, hit him with that, hit him with this. He's stunned, right? It's a ton of damage you're able to unload on a dude with that kind of combo. So that's really how you want to do it. Remember, when they have the skull over their head, initiate with your 3. Use your 2 for your heals. Use your 1 for poking and everything like that. Building hysteria, all that stuff. And you basically, once you initiate with your 3, unload your 2 and your 1 as soon as possible. Hit them with all that damage. They're going to be super debuffed, super slow. You're going to be able to do a lot of damage to them for sure. So yeah, I think that's about it when it comes to Baron. One thing that he likes to build, obviously, is like a little bit of cooldown. When it comes to starter items, like Sands of Times or Conduit Gem are fine on him. His abilities can be used very effectively if you're building things like Soul Gem. You can build like Chronos Pendant and Soul Gem and some pen and power on him, and he'll do a lot of damage. If you get Sands of Time, upgrade to Pendulum of Ages, get that 20% cooldown, and then something like a Spirit Desolation should be good. You don't have to go like a full 40%. If you want to go more of like a power pen, you could get like a Sands of Time. Start with this. If you're versing like a healer, you can get a Divine Ruin, right? Get that Spirit Desolation, and then you can go into things like Soul Gem, Soul Reaver, Rada Tahuti, right? These are good builds on him. It's a lot of power, a lot of, like, this is a percentage of health for tanks and things like that. There's Flat Pen on these. You have a little bit of lifesteal on this. He likes Soul Gem. Even like Pythagorean's Pierce is good on Baron just because of the heals that he gets from his 2. So you can do things like this. So you can do like a power pen type build, plus Soul Gem's passive. You can actually do, if you don't want to do something like this, like a power pen build, you can also build like the Bancrofts. I see more Bancrofts on him, and now that Bancroft's Claw is a thing, this will make him very tanky. And then you could do something like this and like a Pythags, right? This will make him lifesteal a lot off of his 2, right? So he'll be getting a lot of health off this stuff. The extra lifesteal, the extra healing. It's really good when you're low with the Bancrofts and everything like that. You'll be able to lifesteal if you need to like ult. You're going to get a bunch of health if you're sucking everyone up, right, with your ultimate with that. And you'll still get enough cooldown with 20% here, and then like a 10% in Spirit Desolation, right? You can, with a build like this, you're going to want something like Flat Pen because you only really have basically like the Rada Tahuti penetration. If you're not going to go like a double lifesteal, or I mean, I guess you don't really need Pythags. You can do something like a Bancroft's Talon, and then you could do like an Obsidian Shard, or probably Rada Tahuti Obsidian Shard, or Obsidian Shard Rada Tahuti. This would be good too. Bancroft's Talon will give you enough healing, right? A lot of power, a lot of mana to kind of sustain, and then you have a lot of pen and you're able to do a lot of damage here. Or if you just want to go complete tank shredder, you can build something like this too, right, where you're building a Soul Reaver. I like the Spirit Desolation on him just because of its passive. With a 10% coupled with this, you'll eventually get to 30%, plus some of your cooldowns are reduced by 2 seconds, right? If you get like an enemy god, a killer assist on them, right, it'll help. And then Divine Ruin, most gods are getting anti-heal at this point just because there's so much healing in the game. It's almost never bad if you see an enemy building like anything like a Soul Reaver, or like the anything that'll like heal them, or if it's like a Hercules or a Hell or an Afro or something like that. Getting this is always a good idea. The way your abilities are, you're able to poke people out and apply anti-heal to them pretty easily with a Divine Ruin, right? So yeah, that's the basics of Baron. The mage builds are pretty like consistent across it. Like I said, you can build like a power pen or something like that. You can always also look at build guides for him, but it's sort of situational, right? I won't go into the solo or the support builds with Baron. You can kind of look those up yourself. If you're a support, you basically want to build like full cooldown and a lot of health with him. If you're solo, you're going to build a hybrid of some damage items, and then some defense items and health and stuff like that. So you're a little bit tankier. Maybe you throw in like 1 or 2 damage items. The rest are kind of defense items, and you're good to go. So that was Baron Samedi. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there's something that I missed that you would like to add, that's like a tip or a trick to play him, please feel free to comment below and let everybody know, like, hey, this is something cool that you can do with him, or this is a great build on him. Like, discuss the builds, discuss like things that you think would work really well on him, that go with his passive, go with his abilities, go with his kit, right? The other thing is I do run a Smite Discord learning server called the Smite Dojo. We love teaching new players how to play Smite. We can teach you guys gods, we can teach you play styles, we can teach you game modes. So if you've been playing, even if you're not a new player, you've been playing a few years, and you want to get into Conquest for the first time, you think it's very daunting and you don't know what to do and how to lane and all that stuff, or when to do objectives, we're here to help through that. We have a ton of mentors that are diamond and masters level that'll give you advice. They'll do one-on-one training with you, and then we also play together all the time. So you can ask like an experienced player or a mentor or two to play with you and maybe your friends and say, hey, we've been getting into conquest, but we kind of don't know when to do our buffs, when to rotate, when to do all this stuff. We'll play with you guys. We don't care about the levels. We don't care if you're good or not. It doesn't matter to us. We just love playing Smite. We'll give you some advice. If you don't want advice, right? If you just want to play with others that are like-minded, we also do that as well. So you're able to just join in. If you're like, hey guys, I just want to meme today and I want to like run around with crazy builds and just have fun, like we do that too, right? So we basically kind of set the expectation before the game in an LFG chat, like, hey, what are we going to do today? Because then everyone's on the same page. It's a very non-toxic environment to play Smite in. No one's going to flame you if you're doing bad or if you're going like 0 and 10. It's like, it happens, right? We've all been there. We've all tried new things. We've all tried new gods. We've all tried learning stuff and not been very good at it, right? But it just takes that practice and that experience and doing it over and over again to get good at it. So we understand that, and we want to provide a safe environment for new players to do that, or existing players, right, that just want to get better at the game. So feel free to stop on by. That link is in the description below. Hop into the Discord server, say hi, enjoy the community, and just have some fun playing Smite with us. And if you guys haven't already, please subscribe to this and then put on the notification bell if you want more content and you want to see all of the gods, because I'm releasing a video for every single god. We're on the Bs now. We'll eventually get to the Zs one day. So I'm releasing about like 1 or 2 videos like every other day. We'll eventually get through all the gods of Smite. And we're also going to be doing a huge item breakdown video. We've already done one for just like the relics and starter items. We're going to go through every item in Smite. We're going to talk about all the trees, go through magical, physical, power, explain what they do. What is magical lifesteal? What's the magical lifesteal tree? When do you build them? How do you build them? So stay tuned for that. Subscribe so you guys don't miss it and you see the notifications for these videos when they come out. And that's about it for me. Thank you very much, guys, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.